Hello.
Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Great, how are you?
Good. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, well, look, I'm sure you might have seen we cover minor parties probably a lot more than anyone else, so better our speciality. So
Very much
it's obviously
appreciated. Yeah.
yeah, well, obviously, once merged fusions, what, about a year old now?
Over a year, yeah.
Just over a year. All right. So yeah, I guess obviously we'll discuss the party in general, but also, uh, what do you make of the movement away from major parties in the first place, as was evident, especially 2022 federal election, and then,
Mm-hmm.
what the future of fusion is in terms of where you're going to sort of, try to win seats, and obviously your name as well. So look, I don't have an exact date on when it'll be out. It'll be soon. I'll keep you posted on that.
Yep.
Probably almost certainly just going to be aired in full. But as I said, I will
Recording
let you
in
know
progress.
on that front. So look, if you can just say, I'll start recording now. If you can just say your first and last name and your title as the audio check, that'd be great.
Yep. I'm Sahar Khalili, and title as in Miss,
No, as in like a role in fusion.
President of Fusion Party.
Easy. All right, I will begin now. Thanks for joining us. Look, obviously, fusion is relatively new to the political sphere. Obviously, you ran at the federal election. You backed a few independents at the Victorian state election too. Tell us, as the president of Fusion, how did you get involved in this party? Were you coming from a branch of one of the other parties that merged into it? What's the deal there?
Yes. I came from the Science Party originally in 2020. And before that, I wasn't that interested in politics. The thing that got me into it was 2019, seeing the way ScoMo responded to the bushfires. That really highlighted for me something was going wrong. So I started to really look into it. And Science Party backed the federal ICAC. So I was like, yes, we need this first. Got me into it.
Yeah, and in terms of obviously the merger where we know the restriction came, it was 1,500 members, no longer 500 at a
Mm.
federal level, which obviously saw a lot of parties go. But a number, including some unregistered parties as well, were put together. A number of parties were put together to form Fusion. Were you involved in that merger process?
I was only involved on the side, but because I was part of the Science Party executive, I would hear from them. They were doing all the hard work of negotiating and trying to get it all together. Um, yeah, so we spoke to a few parties. Okay, so before that law came in, we were discussing what should we do? Should we go out and recruit more people, or should we try and collaborate with a couple of parties and check in on them and see how they're going? So we spoke to Flux Party as well. Everyone knows them. But after a bit of a scoping out, we ended up with, as you'd know, the Pirates, Science, Vote Planet, Climate Change Justice, and Secular. Um, and yeah, it's been an amazing experiment that's still going.
It is a lot of parties though involved, or some are former. I know some parties are still active in their own right. Um, is it possible for a, because obviously I'm sure your end game is to actually win seats, for a party like that to properly work when you have so many different voices? And obviously the reason you've merged, I imagine, not just the members, but because you do have similar views. But
Mm.
can that actually work in terms of like leadership and all that? That's a lot of different people having to come together and try to agree on a single party here.
Yeah, I think the main thing we're trying to agree on now is how to do the operations. So we've all agreed on the same policies and the same values and the same things we want to achieve. Happy to speak to that. We have a whole values hierarchy that we just need to communicate out, and that is pretty much the key that shows where Fusion stands on everything, whether you're a pirate or a secular or a science. We're trying to maintain a very consistent identity and brand, because we do know, of course, it'd be confusing if someone's voting and they're not sure who they're getting. So the thing is, we're an amalgamated party, but we are one as Fusion, if that clarifies.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I know the recent thing is there has been moves to potentially change your name. A lot of suggestions coming through. Some more likely to get up than others, and I know it seems to have been finalised down. And of course,
Mm.
the original. We're just saying Fusion here, but we know the full name is a bit longer. So
Yeah.
Is there any movement in there? Is it just, are you trying to shorten it down just to fusion, or have you decided on a name, or do you know when you're going to decide on a name?
Yeah, it's funny. I did see some pretty good names come up. Like I really liked Equilib, but most people didn't like that one. And
I
so
think it's a
we.
brand of diet pill or something like that.
Oh,
That's
is
what I
it?
found when I looked
Oh,
it
I
up.
didn't know
I looked it up.
that.
I have no idea, but yeah, there were a lot though. There was
There was
some like
heaps.
Democracy and Labor Party. That's never going to get up when if the DLP has their way. But
Yeah.
yeah, go on.
We had Science and Environment Party too, which I think, it was isolating one of the parties. And I don't know, I think it's a name like Science and Environment is very clear. It's very explicit, science, environment, of course, but I don't think it really allows much diversity of expression if you're focusing on issues to represent your party. So, yeah, it's funny because I think some people have been saying to us, what is fusion about? And I think I've probably gotten a bit attached to it. And I see fusion came from the fusion of those parties, but I see it now that fusion is constantly in motion and wanting to be collaborative and responsive and very agile and not so stuck and rooted in old ideologies and traditions. It's forever trying to reach towards the future, a better future. So I personally don't mind going with fusion, but I mean, I debate how important is a name. I mean, no one really thinks about what liberal means or what Labor means so much for the Labor Party. They don't really, well, I mean, I can't speak for everyone. Um, but then as well, I
True,
guess,
but you do need a name to get registered. You do need a name to, unless you just want to be ungrouped independents. But I don't think that's
no,
actually
no,
the
no.
best way. You got to
Yeah, I
go
mean,
in seek.
it's generally just it's a conversation that we're having because people have brought it up. So we're doing that, and we'll see where it goes. But we don't take the decision lightly. We're not going to be a party that just changes its name. So watch this space, really.
Right. Yeah, I think there have been a few minor parties that have changed their name maybe a dozen times. So,
Mm.
nice if one stays consistent. Look, something I've really noticed, and it doesn't seem to be happening with many other parties, although Flux might be on, although they seem to have died off now. But you're very open in that you post Zoom meetings in full. You post that to YouTube. You have a public Discord. Really can't name any parties with a public Discord. It's quite a unique way of doing things. Why has that kind of approach been taken?
Oh
Because
well,
it's
thank you, Leo.
arguably more transparent than others.
Yeah, well, that's it. So the way I like to describe Fusion is we are a bright green techno progressive party. So we value all the developments that we have in research and technology to advance the way we live and enjoy life. And we want to use those advances to help with the environment. And because of the advances in technology, it means information is just so much more available. I mean, Six News, amazing. I was watching you guys when you were covering the Victorian election. It was so great. And I couldn't stop laughing, you
Thank you.
guys. It was ending at 8 p.m. Anyway, but
Just wait till our New South Wales coverage. Hopefully that'll
oh, I
last a bit
can't
longer
wait.
than finishing at 8:30.
So, but what I'm saying is with the technology and the information being available, we're also embracing radical transparency and also just understanding what it means to what extent, because then it becomes privacy versus secrecy. Who knows? But we prefer to be that way because it's more likely to be ethical, it's more trustworthy, and it's more engaging and involving. So you got to walk the talk.
Mm. Um, can I ask? I just want to go back to what you started in terms of how you were describing the party. Um, I hope I didn't mishear it. These are crappy headphones, but right green, is that how you described
Oh,
it
I
in part?
said, sorry, bright green environmentalist.
Right, right. I was wondering that can't be right green.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Going on with fusion again. As a relatively new party, once all amalgamated. It not too close to winning a Senate seat, but at the same time, we do see this movement away from the majors in both houses, in all levels of Parliament,
Mm-hmm.
is happening, and that was evident with the Teal independents, the lower house. I mean, my local members, Monique Ryan. It was evident in the Senate, where you've got from the Jackie Lambie network to the Greens to David Pocock, and they're all getting in. And obviously, that's where Labor does need crossbenchers to actually work with them, unless they have to go to the coalition to pass anything. What do you make of that? Do you think it's going to be sustained movement away from the majors? Because you look at how Anthony Albanese won and got into government, the very slim majority, and you think, well, it's more so an anti-Morrison vote than a pro-Albanese vote.
Yeah, I think maybe the rest of the world has had the same feelings that I've also had when we witnessed ScoMo just not taking the fire seriously. I think it triggered a lot of people, especially with how the pandemic was handled. No one liked being in lockdown and losing their jobs and things like that. Just, I think that was the first time the impact of the government became very real to people. So I think once that happened, the people who were liberal faithfuls just lost faith in them, and so that now they're moving away from them there. But because of that activation, I think people have become, I guess, more aware of how they can have an influence or should be able to have an influence, and that's part of what I want to do with Fusion. I was a bit turned off by politics. I always felt it was a bit dry, a bit boring, a bit ridiculous too. If you scroll through Twitter, I mean, sure, it's fun, but I'm like, this is just ridiculous. Why do we put up with this stuff? And that all that dryness creates a bit of a barrier for people to want to engage with it. So for Fusion, I kind of want it to be a very community and grassroots based party where we make it easy for people to just really access democracy, have their say.
Yeah, there are a lot of parties, though, that, some might say have similar positions to what you guys have. When you look at the environment side of things, there's a few parties there, namely the Greens is one. When it comes to more of the progressive side of things, there's, again, a bunch. People could say the Greens, people could say the Oz Progressives.
Yeah.
The list goes on there, and then, of course, independents themselves. Is there something that can make you stand out to get what is, again, your end goal is obviously, I'm sure, seats, but when you look at just the Senate, it's... the quotas are pretty high to be able to get a seat. You need not just the preferences, but those initial primary votes.
Yes. I just really didn't pick that you were going to do the Fusion versus Greens question, but I can tell you how we are different.
I mean, Greens are one. Greens are probably the biggest example. I mean, they're almost a major party these days, but they are, some would argue that they are, the big non-Labor Liberal National Party here.
They're the friendly party.
I'm sure they do have some similarities to your party. I saw Greens voters saying they're going to vote Fusion too or something like that. But inevitably, they are big when it comes to the progressive and the environment side.
Yeah, well, okay, so us and the Greens, we are friends when it comes to policies, especially in the 2022 election. They were the only major party that had a decent environmental policy. So Fusion backs that, but we differ in a few things. So I think when it comes to embracing technology and advances in technology, the Greens, they want to close down the Lucas Heights reactor because of the nuclear material there, but we need that material for medicine. So they're essentially just saying no nuclear of any form, even though it saves people from cancer and allows them to live longer. So we're not so anti-technology like that. We're wanting to embrace research in nuclear medicine. So we want to lift the ban of the legislation from 1999. And what else? I guess we're kind of a little bit more centered than Greens. So we have, thought about economic policies as well. Yeah.
Right. I know when people think of nuclear and they have this debate, that a lot of the thing is they'll go to the worst case scenario when it comes to dealing with nuclear, Chernobyl. It seems to happen anytime people talk about dealing with nuclear, anything. And while some have acknowledged, it can be safe, as you said, use in medicine, things like that. A big question is, can we trust governments and can we trust officials to be safe with it, to be responsible with it? Nothing like on a Chernobyl level scale. A lot's changed since then, but just generally, I mean, we're all hearing about radioactive material over in WA. So what do you say to that? Is it because government, but is it actually going to be, something that can be done responsibly if a ban like that is lifted.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, what the ban does when we lift it is it allows us to actually even look into it and research the technology because, we're going towards wanting to use more of the advances that's coming from fusion power. And that's not why we're called fusion, but fusion is accelerating and
Like three different reasons where your name could come in there.
Yeah.
Hey, it works.
Yeah, well, bright green. Yeah, so fusion's advancing, and I think investing in this future potential energy is just an investment for the future. The like wild, far away future. Why not? And I think with the way things are going, with how slowly we're going with using slowing down on the coal and trying to invest in solar and wind, it's just not happening fast enough. And so nuclear might have to be an option, but a lot of scaremongering campaigns have happened in the past, like in the 90s. I know in a suburb near where I live in Leichhardt, there are still signs everywhere saying we're a nuclear-free zone. And when you see that, I just think, oh, yeah, I don't want to have nuclear. I'm scared of radiation and cancer. But they were talking about nuclear weapons, not nuclear medicine or nuclear power. So I think it's really unfortunate.
There was there was a nuclear disarmament party too. That was pretty good. I think they want a seat too. Yeah. Just finally, can I ask, as president there, without trying to get into your the back end details of how the parties run, what is it like for you? What does that role actually involve in a smaller party, a newer party, and as you've described it, a grassroots party?
I think what we're doing is we are just focusing on solidifying our identity. So we're doing a lot of that kind of work in the background, just because we all have ideas of why we're involved and what's important to us, but we're trying to articulate it in a way so the rest of Australia understands. And at the same time continue to change the conversation, because the thing is, with the smaller parties, they always flag the important policies that people want, and the majors listen, like they have for the Science Party, at least in the past. We had the Australian Space Agency, and then we had the Australian Centre for Disease Control. And can you name which party says 700% renewables? Do you know who has that policy?
No.
Oh, well, that was Greens, at least in 2022.
A very good job as a political journalist, am I?
Oh, but Science Party had it in 2016, 800% renewables. So that's I guess the satisfying thing a little bit about being a smaller party. You're closer to the ground, you're talking to people, and if the major parties are wise, they'll take notice and steal your policies.
Really great to chat. We'll keep covering your party with interest. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Great. I'll cut it there.
Recording
Thank you again.
stopped.
As I said, I'll let you know when it's out, whenever it is out. I'll just ask, we're off air, but I am interested to know, because I never trust Wikipedia. What was it, the parties that were involved in the amalgamate? So obviously Science seems to be the bigger one. Pirate, Climate Emergency, which was unregistered, I think. Secular?
Yeah, it's a tricky one. So it was Pirate, Science, Vote Planet. So Vote Planet's a funny one because they're a federated party based in Victoria.
It's federated in a federated
Yeah.
party. Is that it?
So they have Vote Planet is also One Planet and Save the Planet. And then, but they really
I did see those names pop up somewhere.
Yeah, and then Secular, which is a pretty old school party. Like secularism isn't the hottest topic anymore so much. So,
No, I was just because it seems, and even I see the Science Party Social's still active, and I think even the logo's in your email at the bottom there. So within the bigger fusion logo. So I mean, it's interesting, and it's amazing how you've actually managed to do it and not collapse within 3 months, as other merge parties seem to do. But no, it's really interesting. As I said, we'll keep covering your party. I will let you know when this is out. But
awesome.
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Glad to be on it. Okay, see ya.
Great. Cheers. Bye.